Briggs is our market analyst this week. We talked with Mike on Wednesday afternoon about corn and DDG pricing and supply, consumer cost in beef, and if this is the end of a recent rally in the cattle market.
It seems to. We did have a really nice rally. We got cattle all the way up to 198, which was pretty close to the spring high of 202. And I think people marketed cattle really well. And I think everybody, I don't know how much money those cattle made, but they lost a lot less. So that was good. But that also forced beef into an all-time high. And I think that pretty much stopped the demand for now.
That market rally, does that make people say maybe I can get back in and start making some money? Maybe there's a gap for me here?
It really hasn't as far as buying feeder cattle. I still have yet to see any feeder cattle with anything close to black ink. Most of it's still triple-digit losers, which amazes me for the amount of money amount of equity that's been lost in the cattle feeding industry to still see people piling into those cattle, but they're smarter than me.
Packers on the same side, they're not making any money either.
No, they're really not, even with what they've done with the beef. You know, they tell you they're not making any money, but I don't know when you figure in all the ancillary stuff that they do, maybe they're obviously not getting killed too bad, or they slowed the chain down.
Right. The last time we talked, I asked you about beef demand and if you were concerned about that. You know, another month in, and there's really no relief in sight. Do you get more and more concerned about it or not? Do you still think it's a staple?
So far it's a staple, but we haven't seen the price increases in the store that I think we'll see after the first year. You know, we haven't sold cattle at $1.30 yet or $1.35 yet, and I think we will. And then you're going to see the $6 and $7 and $8 hamburger possibly, and that might really hurt some people because then they may be forced to switch to other proteins. The other thing that we have seen is we've seen export demand drop dramatically. Now, a lot of that has to do with the price of the dollar because we let our currency float, unlike other countries. But that goes in there too, because at one point this year, 20% of our production was going to export. Now, as of the last report, we're under 10 again. That's a pretty big chunk that comes right back onto the market.
Let's talk about feed costs. There's going to be a decision in a few weeks here, a gap of a few weeks here about ethanol and whether they'll waive a mandate to that. Do you make any plans for that one way or the other? Do you just have an expectation?
That's a great question. I don't know how you plan for that because you really have no idea what the government's going to do. And I've heard both sides as to whether or not that's going to do any good.
Right.
I think it will do us some good. It will give us some relief. The bigger things I'm more hopeful of is maybe greater production in the next production crop, because we have seen extraordinary yields on the irrigated ground. Now, whether it's enough to offset some of the bad stuff to raise up the total crop, I don't know.
Is it a concern for you in the DDG market though, if ethanol slides?
Oh, absolutely, because you're going to start, I don't care whether they get rid of the ethanol mandate or not, ethanol is not profitable right now. At $8 corn, you need $100 barrel oil, or that doesn't work. Well, you don't have $100 barrel oil. You're probably not going to have $100 barrel oil for a while. So that means these ethanol plants, some of these ethanol plants that don't have deep pockets, they're going to shut anyway. So then your supply of DDG gets a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller. And it's already small enough that it's priced to a point where it doesn't really help us reduce ration costs anymore, because you can't use it as an energy supplement. You can only use it as a protein supplement, so you're not using as much of it already.
What do you see as the foreseeable future price for corn?
Great question. I really don't think it's going to get, $8 corn stifled a lot of demand, and I think it stifles enough demand that I don't know that you have to get over $8 corn unless there's something else that comes in and shakes up this market. Having said that, it ain't going under 7. I just don't think it can. You're going to have to get clear into the next crop year and be able to at least look over the fence and say, yeah, there's a crop there before this thing starts leaking, because the corn supply that we have available is going to be so tight right into new crop. I just don't think you can break this very hard at all.
Dare I ask if you're bearish?
No, not on corn.
No, on cattle.
No, I'm not bearish on cattle. I think cattle are going to go up. Now, from a feeder standpoint, we're margin players. We have to be able to carve out a margin, and there's such a small supply of feeder cattle, the ability for a feed yard to carve out a margin is going to be really difficult. The other thing we do is we try to put pounds on cheaper than we're getting paid for them, and with $8 corn, it's pretty hard to put pounds on cheaper than you're getting it sold for. So it makes it really difficult for feed yards to hack out a margin. The rancher on the other side, provided Mother Nature treats him a little better, he's going to be in the driver's seat for sure next year. But I think in the packing and the feeding industry, we've got way too much overcapacity in both those industries, and that's going to come home to roost. There's going to have to be something to deal with that. It's a little bit like the fiscal cliff. It's going to have to get dealt with.